Hello, Hateless Gaming here, bringing you a guide on overheating in EVE Online. This is a really helpful skill to have, and a very helpful thing to know about and not be afraid to do. For overheating, we want thermodynamics trained at least to 2 or 3. 5 is preferable because it reduces the amount of heat damage that you're going to get. If you're going to repair outside and in PvP situations, you're going to want nanite operation and nanite interfacing trained. They help you when using nanite paste, but the thermodynamics is what you need to actually overheat. Now, I've got my alt here. We're both in Demoses because the Demos can't really kill another Demos. I'm just going to challenge myself to a duel here. Invite to duel. Yes. Put a wager on it if you'd like. Accept. So, I'm just going to have him lock me up and me lock him up. Now, he's running his tank. I'll just start shooting him. For overheating, to overheat a module, you just hit Shift and click, and then you'll see it start to flash a bit. And when you overheat it, it's going to be more effective. So right now we have 891 HP repaired point for 7.7 seconds. If I turn off the heat, that's going to drop up to 820 per 9 seconds. That it increases the effectiveness. Same on DPS. Right now we have 722 DPS, but if I overheat the guns, we'll start cranking 819. You get, depending on the module, you get different amounts. And what you'll find is that when you do start running something heated, like for example the guns, there's that little red bit of damage that says it's 2% damaged. That's how much heat damage you've had. So at the beginning of overheating, what's going to happen is it'll start collecting heat damage slowly, and as the heat damage goes up, your rack will get hotter. Each rack has a each slot position has a different rack. So the high slot has its own rack, the mid slot has another rack, and the low slot has its own rack. So as this heat gets to a higher percentage, the damage caused by heating to your guns will increase. As it approaches 100, the damage goes up faster. So at first we did like 15 cycles. It only took like 2 or 3% damage. Now what's going to happen is it's going to go out like 4 or 5% per cycle, and it's going to be even worse. So the damage comes in exponentially, so you really got to watch that, especially if you're overheating a few modules, like a micro warp drive. No, I'm not going to move, but overheating the micro warp drive gets us really moving. But it starts heating the rack. We can do the same for the hardeners, and they're separate from the micro warp drive, but they're not separate from the repper because they're in the same rack. So if we watch our heat here, the rack took 43% heat in a couple cycles, and it's going to give damage to the micro warp drive. Now, if you break a weapon, which I'll demonstrate with my guns here. So it's really easy to heat. You can either click the little green icon, which is really difficult to do, or you can shift and click on the thing to select if it's overheating or not. The overheat is if it's highlight, it's a light green instead of a dull green. If you're in color blind modes, I'm sure there's different ways this can be done. But as we approach 90%, we're gonna hit 100%, and our guns are gonna break. When something breaks, it's not gone, but you do need to dock up and repair it if it gets broken, or you need to online them again. You can slowly online them again at like a stray house or something, but reality, you're gonna have to dock up to turn these back on. So I'm gonna do just that as soon as my timer expires. And then once you've broken something, you need to dock up, and like I said, that's pretty much all I got for heating. It's pretty simple, and it's something that you really get the feel of for how much you can and can't overheat just by kind of playing with it. Every ship is a little different. Another thing you can do is if you have a heat damage spreads. So like for example, I only overheated my micro warp drive, but the cap rechargers also took damage. It spreads 2 slots up or down. So if I had this in the middle, so if I switch this with this, it would spread to all 3 modules instead of just one. And it spreads evenly. So if it only affected one module, it would have done more than 43%. But if it affected 2, we had less damage. So like if I overheat the repper and run that, what's going to happen is our low rack will start generating heat. And I actually have these spaced properly, so this will bleed to the repper and the magnetic field stabilizer. This one will bleed to here and here. And actually this one that I'm running is the T2, which is here. Also, officer, or not officer, but dead space and faction items don't suffer from heat damage as quickly. So as you can see, we got lucky and we didn't spread any heat. It doesn't look like we spread any to the modules next to it either. I'm running another cycle here. So that time the magnetic field stabilizer took some damage. But the rack's getting hotter. The hotter the rack, the more likely the module is to create heat damage. Wow, we're getting really lucky. We are spreading it to the modules next to it though. You see the magnetic field stabilizer and this is bad. A passive module can get broken from heat. If you overheat too much, it will eventually break. It looks like we have heat damage coming into the kinetic hardener. It's also bleeding to that magnetic field stabilizer and to the thermal hardener a little bit. As you can see, it's bleeding across, but it's not bleeding to this because it's too far away. Or actually, maybe it is. Maybe it's bleeding across the rack, but it's good to space these so that you you don't break things as quickly. It'll yeah. Anyways, everybody, fly safe. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and make sure you play with overheating. You can get away with doing it for a while. If your ship's gonna die, everything should have been overheated as much as you can. Don't go down without heating things. Everybody, fly dangerous.